Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. Glad you decided to tune in. A lot of action for a Sunday at the end of July this is usually a dead period. Media day as far as football goes is going to be here not next week, but the week after, I believe August 5th. And so there's a lot to look forward to there. But usually this is kind of a dead period, but there is a lot to talk about today as far as Oklahoma State athletics. For number one, we're going to get into the basketball. This is going to be strictly a basketball video. We're going to introduce you to this year's team because they start their action in Puerto Rico tonight as this podcast gets released on a Sunday. They started Sunday night at 7 o'clock. They play Sunday at 7, Monday at 7, and then Wednesday at 7. They play the same team both on Sunday and Monday. Then they play a different team on Wednesday. I know Coach Lutz said that he thought there would be two really good games there, and then a third game. We'll see how that goes. But we'll get into that here in a minute. I wanted to cover football first. 41,000 season tickets sold so far for Oklahoma State football, so the excitement is back. I know I was talking to somebody within the program. They think they're going to get up to about 44,000 season tickets sold. So Oklahoma State fans, give yourselves a standing ovation. I know I've said it, I don't know how many times now, but the job that we did as fans, continuing to go to the games last year, that's what got us in the door with a guy like Eric Morris. That's why, one of the big reasons why he came, because you see that support even in a season that has gone completely sideways. You know that you have a passionate and loyal fan base. And then to double down on that, you have 41,000 season tickets sold for this year. Cannot wait for Oklahoma State football this year, and to hear Larry Reese with his big pipes over the PA say, "Are you ready for some Cowboy football and the Eric Morris era to begin?" I'm telling you, man, when that moment happens, I'm going to have goosebumps all over my body because I can't wait. And then I'm even more excited to watch OSU football. Yes, I mean OSU football. I mean high-flying, high-scoring, very opportunistic, fast-paced defense as well under Coach Morris. I think that brand of football that Oklahoma State fans have fallen in love with, kind of like in basketball, we fell in love with the hard-nosed, nitty-gritty defensive style with a shooter or two in the perimeter, tough rebounding, great defense, just kind of wrench the game down and be the tougher team. I think we fell in love with that brand under Eddie Sutton. And above all else, I think that's what Oklahoma State basketball fans want. I think Oklahoma State baseball fans, they want to see offense and they want to see Omaha. And then in basketball and then in football, I think, we want to see the high flying. We want to see bullet all over the place, and we want to see all of that getting after it. So I think that's back. Okay, so let's get into the basketball season. That not the season doesn't start tonight, but the action starts tonight, 7 o'clock in Puerto Rico. I will put the link to where you can watch the games in the description below. So if you want to watch the games on Baller TV, you can just click that link, or you can go to any of the OkState Daily social media or any of the Oklahoma State Athletics social media, and the links will be there. Just click on those, and you can watch the game. So Coach Lutz, I was, super excited. I don't think he was super excited about doing a press conference in July, just simply because, to be honest with you, it's July. You're kind of talking out of your ass. It's like, okay, well, we don't play a game for, 3 or 4 months. We've had 10 practices, and really the practices have been more about just kind of organizational structure and working on you. It hasn't been like, okay, let's play each other and get game ready. So there's really not a whole lot to say here in July, despite the fact that this team is going to Puerto Rico to play some games. But I thought there was some very noteworthy comments from Coach Lutz. And I think the first part of what I was, I've said this many different times, what I really like about Coach Lutz, and I'm bringing this back into my open, is that this dude is no nonsense. He is tough-minded. I think last year's team kind of caught him by surprise. I think he overcorrected, feeling like he needed to go get more offense because his first unit just couldn't score the ball. I think he overcorrected, and by the time this team really started skidding, which would have been about the second half of the season, it kind of was, well, you got what you got, and there wasn't a whole lot he could do about it. So he had a chance to course correct. I think he has went and got a roster that's not only easily, not kind of, easily the most talented, diverse, and great mix of different skills, but also age levels. You'd have the tremendous freshman with Anthony Falesi, who can just absolutely light up the scoreboard. Latrell Allman, who I think is probably listening to Tom Dorado the other day on Triple Play Sports. I know Tom was really big on, he thinks Latrell Allman is probably the most ready freshman in terms of body style for Oklahoma State. And then obviously you have Jalen Montanati and you have Parker Robertson, Jacob Walker, all the new transfer guys. So it's a great mix of Ben Ahmed, Ryan Karate, Kanye Clary, and Mekhi Ragland coming back to bring at least a little bit of a taste of hey, here's how we do it here. And then with some great transfers in Jordan Burks, Luka Bogovac. I know Tom Dorado was very high on Luka Bogovac. In fact, he went so far as to say he thinks in some ways the team might run through him, right? And then Andrija Grobovich coming, and then the center, Julius Alea Fonua. Okay, I think I'm saying that correctly. Again, if I'm not, I apologize. So, and then Cashie Natt, if he's eligible. So let's get into the Cashie Natt deal. Cashie Natt, he is eligible at this moment. Now, the NCAA determined him ineligible. So then what he did is he went and got an ex parte restraining order, which basically is a temporary injunction to the decision, which allows him to be immediately eligible. But that's not the ending, as Coach Lutz mentioned. That's not the end of it. As a matter of fact, I think when the court case actually happens, I think he's probably going to lose his case. And I think that's because the NCAA, hey, if the NCAA puts down a ruling and then these players go to a local judge, get an ex parte restraining order, which is a temporary injunction to allow them to play, that means now the NCAA has no ability to enforce any kind of rules. That means at that point the NCAA is done. I mean, what good is it to have an authority figure if that authority figure has no power whatsoever to enforce the rules? Because if every time they bring down a ruling, then a player just goes to a local judge, gets an ex parte restraining order, and then the court case ends up favoring on the side of the players. That's a mess. And I know that's the term that Coach Lutz used. So we'll have to see what happens. I think the best case scenario for Oklahoma State is that it just takes forever to get this court case going, and maybe it doesn't happen until next spring, something like that. But here's the hard part of that. As a coach, what do? Okay, you kind of have to anticipate both sides, but Cashie Natt is eligible right now. So he is going to play until the courts tell Coach Lutz that Cashie Natt is not eligible. So he's going to be in the lineup. He's going to be at practice. He's going to play just like he's eligible every single day. Here's the hard part of that. So what happens if you invest all this time in Cashie Natt as a coach, and then say in January, right before a big conference game, likely the day before, because you don't have control over this. I say likely. I'm just kind of giving you a somewhat sarcastic version of the woe is me Oklahoma State scenario with the NCAA. It seems like the worst case scenario that could play out, always does. What happens if that court case comes the day before you go and play a big conference game? It's determined that Cashie Natt is not eligible. So now you spent this entire season building a team and a roster around his point guard abilities, his toughness, and then all of a sudden, now you don't have him, almost as if he went down to injury. Not only that, but then the specific game plan for that next night is entirely messed up. You're having to redo that whole thing. So this is a mess. I wish they would get all these things done before the season started. I don't know how you would do that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not any part of that. So I'm probably speaking out of a part of my body that I shouldn't be by saying that. But to be fair to all the coaches, so they know exactly what they have in terms of the roster, it would be a better scenario if you got all these situations cleared up before the season started. So that's kind of where we're at with Cashie Natt. In terms of the returning starters, lots of great content from Coach Lutz. First of all, you be the judge. I've said it many times. Coach Lutz, no nonsense. He's a tough-minded coach. Again, I don't think he was able to enforce that last year. I just think he got kind of caught in a situation he wasn't ready for. But he's went and got the players and instilled the toughness that he wants to see in his program. You judge for yourself. Here is Coach Lutz, and you judge kind of the tone of the way he talks.
Doesn't matter if you were the 500th ranked player or you're a McDonald's All-American. It's hard. It's hard when coach is not telling you that everything you're doing is correct. It's hard when you come across the lane and somebody lays you out and you've never been hit like that before. So they're all beat up. They spend a lot of time in the training table, but they're all wonderful human beings, and they're going to be good basketball players.
So we all know that there is an extremely, extremely talented freshman class coming in. Latrell Allman, Anthony Falesi, Jalen Montnati, all that whole group. And then the sophomores, you have Ben Ahmed, you have Ryan Crotty, you've got Mekhi Ragland, which, by the way, Mekhi Ragland, he's kind of been on the Ben Ahmed deal, and he really devoted himself to getting his body right. So I think you're going to see an entirely different Mekhi Ragland. And just think about, even without Parsifala, who did file for another year, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. If you have Ben Ahmed, Mekhi Ragland, and Julius Halafonu in the front court, that is a huge lineup to go with some of the wing players that we'll get into here in a minute. So here's Coach Lutz on the freshman and the sophomore for this year's team.
They're all beat up a little bit right now. Mekhi, I give Mekhi a lot of credit. He went in the month of May and part of June out to Phoenix to, I don't know the word to use, maybe get healthy and to really learn to the nutritional aspect of how he needs to function. And, he dropped some weight and he came back and he looks slimmer and trimmer than he has. So I'm really proud of him. With that being said, he won't be here today because his grandmother passed, and so he had to go back to Atlanta. So, and then Ben has continued to trend forward. I like where Ben is, and I like the fact that he continues to get in better shape, and he spends a lot of time in the gym, and his skill level has increased, and his touch around the rim is getting better, and he's catching better, and all those sorts of things. So again, I think they just continue to move forward. And then Ryan as well. Ryan has done a good job with his body. He's in great shape. It's the best shape I've seen him since he's touched foot on campus, and I expect big things out of all of them.
No question about it. The anchor to this team, if it's going to be good, has to be Kanye Clary. It's kind of like in football. I talked about this on the last podcast we did. When you have the quarterback, the guy that can pull the trigger, then you can mask a lot of areas where you might not be perfect. No team is perfect. But if you have a quarterback and or a point guard, those guys can get you in the right play. They can get the ball in the right part of the court to the right player, and they can mask a lot of things that maybe you don't do well. Coach Lutz did not mince words on Kanye Clary. He thinks that Kanye Clary should be one of the best point guards, not in the Big 12, but in the country. Here's what he had to say.
After January, February last year, I really thought he bought in, and he's continued to do that. He's continued to try and help the young guys. He's continued to try to help the new guys, especially those that need it, and be a leader. I expect him to be one of the better point guards across the United States this year. I'm going to be really disappointed if he's not. And once he bought in, and last year, I thought that his game took off. I thought that our team played better, and he's carried it over to this year. I mean, I'm not going to speak for him, but just through his body language, through his conversations with myself and the staff, he expects this to be an unbelievable senior year for him, and for us to reach our goals, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get there, and that requires him to be a leader.
So let's get into some of the personnel this year for Oklahoma State. And let's start, Cashie Natt. Let's start with him. There you see, very tough guy out on the perimeter, very defensive oriented. We talked about Coach Lutz. I know he's a very tough-minded, no-nonsense type of coach. And Cashie Natt, if he ends up being eligible for the entire season, again, he's eligible right this moment. This is when Sam Houston came to Stillwater last year. If you remember that in the preseason, he was very impressive in Stillwater. So Cashie Natt, lockdown defense, 2025-26 Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year. Sam Houston, you can see right here why that looks like Arturo Dean stealing the ball right there, right? And he's just in your face. Look at that, right up in your grill. Good rebounder, tremendous defender. He's great out in the open court. Elite, not good, elite rebounding from the guard spot. As a matter of fact, he grabbed 8.2 rebounds a game. And that includes almost 6 defensive rebounds a game, and that led his conference in defensive rebounds. And he led the Conference USA in total double-doubles with 9. Averaged 10.8 points a game, 43% shooting, 38.3% from three-point range. So he can shoot. He's an extremely tough defender, and he is extremely tough. He's going to be a guy that Oklahoma State fans love because we talked about that tough, hard-nosed, Eddie Sutton-type defensive-minded basketball. That is Cashie Natt. So Jordan Burks is one I have not covered at all this year. Look at the smooth length right here. Ka-bam, right there. We saw Jordan Burks last year when he was with UCF, an extremely, extremely talented, very long, athletic scorer. I mean, Jordan Burks is a guy that can score in every which way. He can get above the rim. He can take it out off the dribble beyond the arc. He can come off the pass and catch and shoot beyond the arc. He can take it, he can put it on the floor, and he can do that right there and create separation with a mid-range game. See that? He came off a high ball screen there, so he can play the high ball screen off the dribble. He can come off the pass. He can step back, shoot the three like that. He can take it to the rim and play above the rim. This is a guy, Jordan Burks, who has big, really good power forward experience as well. So he can play multiple spots. He can stretch the floor. I mean, I think he can play anywhere from 3 to where, I wouldn't think that he'd ever need to play the 5, but I think he could play anywhere from the 2 to the 3 to the 4. Any of those 3 spots there, so he can play multiple spots. He can stretch the floor and make shots in big moments. He is not afraid to take the shots. Anthony Roy was that guy last year. Jordan Burks, I think, can kind of take over some of that. Hey, we need somebody to hit a three-pointer in a huge part of the game. Jordan Burks will not hesitate, and he will not be scared of the big moments. So you could see his growth from game to game last year, no doubt about that. And I know Coach Lutz is very excited to have Jordan Burks with his power forward experience, his versatility, his length, his athletic ability, his shooting ability, his ability to put it on the floor, and then also just the experience that he brings. So super excited about Jordan Burks. Andrea Grabovich is another wing player. So you got Jordan Burks, you got Andrea Grabovich, you've got Luka Bogovac. You've got some really tall, athletic, very, very experienced wing players that all have anywhere from power forward experience to professional experience overseas. So Grabovich, he was at Arizona State last year. So Jordan Burks was at UCF, Grabovich at Arizona State, and then Luka Bogovac was at North Carolina. So tremendous power forward experience. Here at Grabovich, size, perimeter shooting, Big 12 experience, 6'11" for Andrea Grabovich with that outside shot. Very European looking there. And so key front court addition, no doubt about that. I think he can play anywhere from the 4. He kind of reminds me of is maybe a Jalen Montanati who could also take it out on the floor and shoot a 3. And speaking of Jalen Montanati, we're going to get in his kid. Not Jalen Montanati, Brian Montanati. I've already got Jalen Montanati ahead of his dad, right? So there's Grabovich shooting a 3 there. So a really long guy, maybe like a Brett Robish, if you remember him. But instead of that being maybe a 15 to 17-foot jump shot, it's a three-pointer. That is big time for a 6'11". So he can shoot over the defense, and he has experience to, he won't be scared of the big shot. So he is what's called a stretch big. So yes, he's a 4, but he's a 4 that can go out on the floor and stretch the floor. Dependable outside shot, 35% from three-point range on 123 attempts last year. Again, 6'11". He's going to be able to get his shot off because he's going to be able to shoot over defenders. He has lots of international experience, not just experience the Power 4 level at Arizona State, but also high-level international experience, strong grasp of ball movement, that European style of offense to where you move the ball to find with spacing on the floor. See how he's a big down low there, but yet he can stretch it out. So he's going to understand ball movement, the spots on the floor. It's kind of like whenever in football, when you pass the ball into a zone, the receiver has to know where the empty spots in that zone are. That's no difference in a motion offense. For a basketball team, Grabovich will know where the empty spots are at, especially beyond the arc, and he will be very good at spotting up. And he's also reuniting with Luka Bogovac, who they both played together overseas with former. So they were former teammates whenever they played overseas professionally. So Bogovac and Grabovich played together. And speaking of Luka Bogovac, he is the next guy we are going to talk about here on the show. And this is a guy I know, listening to Tom Dorado the other day, he thought Luka Bogovac might be the key to this team in a lot of ways. Size, perimeter shooting, high-level international experience, same team as Andrija Grabovich, and he's coming in from North Carolina, 6'6". So 6'11", 6'8", 6'6". Then you have all the interior size of 6'11" with the Haliafuna that's coming in from Georgetown, 6'10", I think Ben Ahmed is. Same with Mekhi Ragland. So lots and lots and lots of size on the wing, lots of size on the front court. 6'6" is Bogovac, averaged 10 points a game, 9.8 to be exact, 2.5 rebounds. 2.2 assists. So natural perimeter shooter, shot nearly 35% from three-point range last year on 149 attempts. Lots of maturity. Knows what the big stage looks like. He will not be scared of it. See how he can come off the high ball screen. He's also going to understand spacing and how to get open. See there on a ball movement type situation he's going to know where the empty spots are, just like we talked about with Grabovich. He can take it and put it on the rack, take it to the rim. He can spot up for three. He can rebound. He can do just a little bit of everything. So 6'6" size on the wing, physical presence. Tremendous experience. I mean, this guy absolutely is a pro. So super excited about Luka Bogovac. In the transfer class and in the front court, Julius Aleafuna. I believe I'm saying that right. I've said it about 8 different times. Maybe one of them is correct. Huge. This guy is huge. High-level offensive efficiency, so he's going to play below the rim. But when he puts a shot up on goal, it's going to go in. Okay, and a lot of front court variety for Oklahoma State, which is exciting. 7 foot, Julius Aleafuna. 7 foot transfer from Georgetown, 260 pounds. 260 pounds, and he was a former 4-star. So this is a super talented young man. Super efficient, led the Big East, and ranked 12th nationally in offensive efficiency while shooting 60.8%. Let me say it again. He shot over 60% from the floor last year at Georgetown in the Big East. That's a really good basketball conference. So at a high-level Power 4 conference, at that level, he shot over 60% from the floor. He averaged 9.5 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, over 1 assist per game, and a little under 20 minutes per game, over 32 appearances. He started 28 games for the Hoyas. Soft touch around the rim, high basketball IQ, a different dimension for OSU in the paint. So he can kind of post up a little bit and kind of take it slow and score. So hopefully, if we don't get Parsifala back, Haliafuna, he takes that role in terms of all of the efficient scoring in the front court, and he's going to join Ben Ahmed, who's 6'10", 275. Mekhi Ragland, who's 6'11", 330. This is going to be a massive interior for Oklahoma State. And then also, like Grabovich and Bogovac, that Haliafuna, he has international experience. He played the NBA Global Academy and the FIBA U19 World Cup. And so he brings a lot of experience like many of the other transfers do as well. Another very dynamic scorer in terms of transfers coming over from Sam Houston State. So Cashie Natt and Jacob Walker, both over from Sam Houston State. Jacob Walker, very dynamic scorer. High-level perimeter shooter for Sam Houston State, proven playmaker coming to OSU. A very decorated transfer. He won the Conference USA Sixth Man of the Year at Sam Houston. So plucking definitely the best players off of that team. 11.5 points a game for the Bearcats last year at Sam Houston as a freshman. So he was, but check this out, down the stretch, 17 points a game over his last 11 games for Sam Houston. You can see there, he can take the ball to the rack. He's ambidextrous. He can use both his left hand and his right hand. He's great at keeping his eyes up and dishing. He can play the high ball screen, and he can spot up for that right there. A very, very good shooter spotting up from three. He can also shoot the three off the dribble. 35.8% from three-point range. He knows floor spacing. Definitely, he's a good ball handler. Matter of fact, he led Sam Houston with 84 assists last year. That averaged out to 2.5 assists per game, so he can handle the ball as well as big. But no doubt about it, the dynamic scoring is what's exciting about Jacob Walker. But he can handle the ball, 2.5 assists per game. And also, he comes from a winning background. He comes from the powerhouse school of Sunrise Christian Academy, where he was a two-time state champion. So, Coach Lutz bringing in a little bit of culture, winning culture here with Jacob Walker. So let's get in now to the extremely, extremely talented freshman class. This is a ridiculously talented freshman class that Coach Lutz has brought in. Man, I'm so excited. Hey, and listening to a lot of people around the program, they think probably Latrell Allman is the most plug-and-play ready player right now in terms of body size, style of game, just kind of what he can bring at the experience level for, when you're playing against some very experienced teams. He's having to practice against a lot of experience with OSU. But hey, this is Parker Robinson. I'm going to say that all the time, Parker Robertson. I loved him at safety for OSU. Parker Robinson, 6'5", 196, 35-inch vertical, strong build. So very strong. He's able to create separation to get his shot off. He has great length at 6'5", a great frame. Shot over 40% from the three-point line and over 80% from the free throw line. So tremendous shooter at 6'5", tremendous strength in his body. Good. He has good. He's got good girth to him, if you will. I'm looking for the word there, and I'm finding it. That's probably the terrible word as you're listening to this, but he's thick. I should say that. So he's going to be able to create separation. He's not just going to get thrown around like a rag doll, although he is a true freshman. You can see right there, he's able to take contact and still finish the play because he's strong with his body. So 6'5", strong, elite competition. He competed for 3 seasons against top youth, collegiate, and professional prospects in Atlanta's Overtime Elite League. So although he's a freshman, he has great experience playing against some of the greatest players in America. Earned all OTE honors after averaging 19 points a game during his senior year. And definitely one of those culture guys again. High energy defense. Again, another guy like we just talked about with Jacob Walker coming in expecting to win because that's all he's ever done is win. He has winning habits. How about a 4.0 student, 4.0 GPA in the classroom? So he's going to fit great alongside Jalen Montnati, Latrell Allman, and Anthony Falesi, and all these guys we're talking about. Super talented and sharpshooter Parker Robinson. Anthony Falesi gets out of bed every morning, and before he actually hits the ground, his feet hit the ground, there's already 2 points on the bucket. I mean, this guy is an elite scorer. At least he has been to this point and this stage in his career. Elite two-way, not good, elite two-way versatility, high level athleticism, consensus 4-star recruit from Utah Prep Academy, led the very prestigious Nike EYBL Scholastic League in scoring. So this is a scorer. again, you're seeing a lot of just different mixes of styles. We're seeing a lot of defense with guys like Cashie Natt. We're seeing dynamic type scores, great shooters, great length, but great size, and just myriads of ways to match up against other teams. So he won the scoring title. He averaged 21.6 per game during his senior season. Last year, shot 54% from the field, and he was really the guy that everybody tried to shut down. So to be able to score like that, to be able to continue to put buckets in like that, although the entire goal of the other team's defense is to shut you down, that's very impressive. He's just absolutely tremendous in transition, as you can see here. And the open floor, he is absolutely electric. He finishes above the rim, as you saw there, and then here he can shoot the three ball. So a little bit of everything for him. And then not only that, he's also widely regarded as one of the premier perimeter defenders in the high school class. So he's not just a one-trick pony. He plays both sides of the ball. He's a very versatile, dynamic scorer on the offensive end, very physical, very good defender on the defensive end. At 6'5", 205, he has a 7-foot wingspan, 7 foot. So Anthony Falesi, man, this dude is electricity in the bottle, man. OSU fans are going to love what now. He's a freshman, and we have a lot of experience. I'm not saying he's going to make. I'm not even going to say he's going to make a huge contribution, because hopefully Bogovac and Grabovich and all these other guys, and Cashie Natt and Kanye Clary and Ben Ahmed, all these upperclassmen, hopefully those guys are doing what they're supposed to, and then the freshmen get to work in slowly. But this guy right here, Anthony Falesi, he has all of the tools, no doubt about it. Jalen Montanati, this is a young man who is a legacy for Oklahoma State. Brian Montanati, part of the Final Four team for Oklahoma State in 2005. We all love Brian Montanati. He has lived in Tulsa, and that's actually a Tulsa Union there. These gyms that these high school programs have nowadays are ridiculously nice. Wait till you see the Ponca City gym. I think this is it right here. Yeah, this is the Ponca City gym. Look at this. This is a ridiculously nice gym. But Jalen Montanati, son of Brian Montanati, went to Owasso last year. Great shooter, recognized as one of the top sharp shooters and shot makers in the state of Oklahoma. He played in the highest class in Oklahoma, 2026, or in Class 6A for the Owasso Rams. Just kind of a very high IQ in terms of how he positions himself. See how he plays the ball screen, how he slips there. I wish he'd get behind the arc there. I don't like that 19-foot jump shot. Let's go ahead and get three if we're going to shoot from range. But he is very good from range. He averaged 23.3 points per game as a junior at Owasso. High basketball IQ, displays great floor spacing, versatility, high-level scoring output, as shown on the Nike EYBL circuit and the FIBA gold medal run with USA Basketball. And obviously, he was a local star, the Gatorade Player of the Year, top-ranked in-state prospect, and very good on the perimeter. He also, as we see here, can play in the interior. Just kind of like Brian, nothing that you're going to see is going to go, holy smokes. I mean, it's all just going to be kind of accumulation of just doing everything really well and really intelligently. And he serves as a foundational piece for this class, no doubt about it, because there's a lot of high school talent here. So there's great, obviously, transfer portal talent too, but the high school class is insane. And Jalen Montanati is a big part of that building block. Latrell Allman, many think, is the most ready out of all of the incoming freshmen for this Oklahoma State basketball team. Elite, not good, elite talent. Now, hey, you never know when they come into college. The elite, all that is at the tour level, at the amateur level in high school. It's at the high school level. So you never know how that translates at the college level. I get it. But the only sample size we have is what he's played so far. And against the competition he's played so far, he has been not good. He's been elite. Elite talent, elite size. Another young man like Jacob Walker, like we've talked about all these guys, he comes from a winning pedigree. As a matter of fact, he played for the programs. He's the highest ranked recruit Oklahoma State's had since Cade Cunningham. 6'8", Latrell Allman. He comes from a winning background. 6'8", 225 pounds. McDonald's All-American out of Petersburg High, which is just a tremendous program. He can go inside. He can go outside. He can take it on the floor. He can finish. He can block shots. He can play above the rim. He can play below the rim if you need him to. He's a high-volume rebounder. He uses his great length hands, and he has a great motor to anticipate where the ball is going to end up in terms of rebounding, and he's a proven champion. He's a high school state player of the year, so he's accustomed to being the dude. He's accustomed to high-level success. He's accustomed to winning. And he has just about elite everything. So there's no reason not to be super excited about Latrell Almond. So Oklahoma State starts tonight. Super excited about it. I'd say tonight. We're recording this on a Sunday. They're in Puerto Rico starting tonight at 7 o'clock. I will put all the links to how you can watch the games on Baller TV in the description. So I hope you enjoyed our coverage of Oklahoma State basketball. Super excited to see Steve Lutz's squad. It's not going to be what you're going to see in the regular season. You're going to see a lot of different combinations. You're going to see it's going to be kind of a cluster, if you will. I mean, it's still July, right? So, I mean, I'm excited to get my eyes on them for an extended period of time, but don't take anything out of the rotations or the continuity or any of that. And then also congratulations to everybody who has put the time in to the 41,000 season tickets sold so far in football. They believe it's going to get up to 44,000. Let's make it even better than that. So I want to thank you for tuning in. And as always, I remind you, it's a great day to be a Cowboy or a Cowgirl, and go Pokes.